Today we're going to talk about pond cleanouts, filter media, and aquaponics. The first question is from a Dennis. I think it's a Dennis J the third maybe. YouTube, thanks for the question. His question is related to a pond that he's had for 13 years. It's never been cleaned. He has some crud that's building on the bottom of it, and he had a professional pond company come out and say, hey, we can spruce this up. We want to drain it and get it clean. And quite frankly, Dennis is a little scared. It's good to be scared right now at this point. It really is. A 13-year-old pond that seems to be running good with some little bit of crud on the bottom. I'm always nervous about cleaning out a pond like this because, if you've had some, let's hope you have some 13 or 15-year-old koi in there. Maybe you bought some fish at some point, threw them in there. They were already a couple years old, and you have some older fish in there at this point. So I would be nervous about it if they've never gone through that experience. And you say you have a level of crud on the bottom. I don't know what we're talking. Is it an inch? Is it 4 inches, 6 inches? A level of crud would make me nervous, and I'm glad that it made you nervous because this is something I want you to address at the right time of the season too. You're not going to want to do this in the middle of the summer. You're not going to want to do this going into winter in Georgia. You're going to want to do it in the springtime, if ever. And spring's also a dangerous time of the year where a lot of parasites could be coming up. If you get mixing up in all that crud, it could backfire on you. I would be really cautious if you've never done any big water changes on this pond to check on the pH and see what level of pH it is. Because if the pH has dropped quite a bit, but the fish have stabilized in there, just like people in LA are living in the smog perfectly well. But if you came to the LA smog, you'd probably feel it a little bit. So the fish are probably in that position right now. You see what I'm saying? So the way I would go about this pond that's 13 years old, that's never been drained, and might I add you, for the viewers that are watching, the pond is only 2,000 gallons. So it's not a really big pond. I would suggest that you do some large bacteria doses to the pond, beneficial bacteria doses to try and eat on that crud. I would invest in a decent pond vacuum, and I would try and vacuum out some of that crud a little bit, and make sure you have a good plant load in the pond. That's one thing that I want to throw in there, because if you have a really heavy plant load in there that's helping keep everything balanced, a lot of times I've seen professionals go into a pond like this that's 13 years old, really well established, everything seems okay, but they want to spruce it up. If they thin back the plants too hard, that's a big part of the ecosystem, and if you thin out those plants too hard, it could backfire on you as well. So my recommendation, let me just get to that, is do some water changes, vacuum out some of the crud on the bottom, do some heavy doses of beneficial bacteria, test the pH, test the ammonia, do some testing on it. And why don't you do, it's hard to fix 13 years of neglect in one clean out. It could be worse, right? So why don't you just start doing some good maintenance on there, and then let's work up to doing a spring clean out possibly next year. If you work on the pond really well this season, you'll probably be in a position where you can do that water change without having very much risk. Great question. All right, I'm going to move on to Eva Jean 28 off of YouTube, and she has a question about filtration media, and this question is coming off of our patio pond series, which was it's a really great series for us, and we get a lot of great feedback and questions on the patio pond, where we did a dual level above ground pond where we pumped the water in the top into the bottom. We had this bog filter filled with gravel, and she wants to know if she could put some bio balls or some sponge material inside the gravel and maybe make it better. And I'm going to tell you, no, I would just stick with the gravel in there. The gravel is designed at that level and that depth, and that's probably the best that you can get. A piece of gravel, well managed and maintained, smooth cobble, is going to be better than a bio ball. I'm really not a big fan of bio balls in any of my systems. So That's a really simple answer. It's no. Just use that gravel in the bog filter. It's really designed that way. Been using it that way for decades and decades. Before I was even doing it, they were doing it. So that's a really great way to go. I'm going to get on to the last question of the day from a DS Koi. He wants to know about aquaponics in a pond system. I think this is a great question because aquaponics is becoming very popular about sustainability with the drought in California and so on. Aquaponics is becoming more and more looked at. If you're going to do aquaponics in your koi pond, it's tricky. Let me get something clear. You have aquaponics, aquaculture, and hydroponics. 3 different specific things. Hydroponics is running water through roots and putting nutrients in the water, and that's all you're doing. You have aquaculture, where you're just doing fish for food, growing up, say, tilapia. And then you have aquaponics, which is a combination of the two, and that's when you're raising fish and you're raising vegetables in one system. And so that's what we're talking about with aquaponics. In a koi pond, if you're doing aquaponics, here's the drawback. You have winter, so when you're going into winter, the fish are slowing down. You're not feeding them as much, and the fish are providing the nutrients for the vegetables to grow. So depending on where you're at, where you're located in California, we can grow. There's a lot of vegetables we can grow most of the season. A lot of herbs that we can grow year round, and if you're not feeding the fish during those times of year, the herbs and those vegetables are going to slow down in the wintertime. So as long as you're prepared for that, in the summertime, you could probably grow some, a lot of different lettuce. You can grow tomatoes in your biofilters and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's a good little mix if you're doing an outdoor pond. You just have to kind of really watch the weather and watch the seasons and grow the specific plants at the certain time of the year. So my question of the day, I'm going to end it with today, is I want to know, are you into aquaponics? What kind of vegetables have you grown in your pond? Give me some weird examples of some vegetables and herbs that you may have grown in your stream, or maybe in a floating basket, maybe some kind of contraption that you made. Why don't you share it with us? We're going to get a kick out of that because aquaponics is getting ready to take off on a flight, an S-curve. Everyone's going to be getting into it real soon. So tell me what you're doing. And if you want me to answer your questions on Ask the Pond Digger, you know how to do it. Hashtag Ask the Pond Digger. Put it on the social media platforms. I'll do my best to answer right here on the show. Thanks for watching.